Blessings, brother.
Yes, brother. Love, man.
Much love, man. Much love. Oh, man, I feel it. I feel it already.
Yeah. Let's just adjust the screen. Cool.
Awesome.
We're here.
We're here, brother. We're here. You're here. We're all here with you. And just thank you for coming on today.
No, gratitude. It was a request that I couldn't deny. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Let me know. I really want to understand how to pronounce it correctly. First of all, how do you pronounce your name?
Agápē.
Agápē.
Yes.
Agápē. And what does agape mean? What is
It
agape?
is the Greek word for unconditional love.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. You've always had that name? You were born with that name?
No, I was born Alex. I've
Okay.
been called many names throughout life, and we shed many layers,
Mhm.
and I didn't feel like I was my given name.
Okay.
So I chose not only to take a name, but to embody a name.
Okay.
And more times than not, if I meet somebody, I don't even ask what is your name, and I don't offer my name much because I feel the energy, and I remember energy more than names. It's, you know.
Right. Right. The energy, the frequency. Like I saw you say that you don't live in a place, you live in a frequency, you know?
I try to, yes, yeah.
Yeah. So, brother Agape, unconditional love, that's a powerful name to ascribe, that's a powerful name to embody, like you say, just to be the embodiment of agape, of unconditional love. When would you say was the moment of transition from Alex to agape? When was that?
Um, it was so that I'd had it in mind to change my name for various reasons 3 or 4 years ago, and I was living in Mexico, and I was in like amongst Mayan communities and the plant medicine world, and I was actually given a nickname of Jaguar, and I didn't really. It was nice, but that wasn't my name, and I was kind of given that name.
Mm.
And so like for a period I was called Jaguar, and I outlived that, and I was like, this is the rebirth. I've had like so many layers, um, and I went through like a rebirth a year ago, and it was like, right, it's time. And there's some other reasons that I won't go into, but it was clear, and it's like, yeah, this is what you're stepping into. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And that was in Mexico?
Yes. Yeah. I lived in Mexico for a couple of years. Yeah.
Jaguar. Okay. What was the characteristic or what was the reason that they initially gave you the name Jaguar?
I think so. I had like a Mayan reading whilst I was
Mhm.
there, and before I landed in Mexico, I didn't realize, but I was born on the day of the Jaguar, by their Mayan calendar, and the Jaguar is my spirit animal. And I did some research, and I did bond with the connection of the spirit, and I've since been amongst jaguars, and so that was quite an interesting experience. Um, and in the plant medicine world, so I used to facilitate and host um, plant medicine retreats,
Mm.
and a number of people used to say you was the jaguar
Mm.
in the journey, like we saw you as the jaguar.
Mm.
So again, it's like I was given by other people's perception, and I understand that. So I have come from, my life now is completely the opposite to what it was 10 years ago, 5 years
Mhm.
ago. So I understand that perhaps one of my gifts is being a bridge from the dark to the light, so to speak. and being able to walk through the dark, perhaps go where other people don't always go, to bridge that gap.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's an honor. It's an honor. Yeah.
Yeah, just hearing this is awesome. You know, definitely you're bridging the gap in many ways, you know, going where many have not gone or even dare to go or even care to go. You know, like it's just interesting the limitations of our imagination that you're just stretching past, you're just blowing past when it comes to people who don't realize like what we're actually capable of, you know, what the body is capable of, what the mind is capable of, and what the spirit is capable of. So it really sounds, brother Agápē, you know, it sounds like you've lived many lifetimes within this lifetime, like many lives. You know, you said you're a shaman, you've been a personal trainer, you've done so many different things, you've been in so many different places, encountered so many different faces and been in so many different spaces. And wow, I mean, geez, you know, what do you attribute to this journey that you're on? Some people call it like, you know, a spiritual journey, an awakening, a process, a resurrection, a transition. Like, what would you call the quest that you've been on?
The thing that comes to mind is perhaps, I would say around 7 years ago, I had, should we call it a vision, a dream, a calling, and the message was clear. The quest is optimal health. Yeah. And at that stage, there was nothing else said. That was, you need to, your quest is to obtain optimal health. And at that stage, it wasn't about anybody else. It wasn't about helping people. I think I'd lived, even though I've lived many lives and not always been the most honorable of persons, I was always living in service. Okay. And, you know, I had a very fast track youth and married and 6 children. So I was always, and held down, you know, managerial jobs. So I was always that person that was responsible, you know, and whether that was in the family, the work, amongst friends, and I was never overflowing. I was lacking. And you know, leading up to now, and you know, I've always tried to delve into looking after my health and fitness. I think growing up religious, I wouldn't say hindered me in a negative way, because it did open me spiritually at that age. But then I became not only anti-religion, but anti-spiritual, and I'd say I lost my connection with source, even with nature to some extent, which means I lost my connection to self. You know, because we are one, and it is so beautiful to be able to observe that of self. And I think the turning point was, and some might say unfortunately, I went through a marital breakup after being married for 25 years.
Wow.
Or 5 years ago almost.
Wow.
And everyone would be like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, do you know what? We'd gotten to a point where we were toxic for each other.
Yes.
And neither of us could go any further. And I said, look at us now. Like, the other party has grown. I've grown. It wasn't right. You know, and everybody is happier and everybody is thriving now. So is it a negative thing? No, nothing is forever, unfortunately. You know, because some people have a fairy tale outcome, you know, happy ever after story, and that wasn't my mission, so to speak. So that breakup really, it gave me the chance to then be alone and go within, and a lot of our friends were mutual, and I decided, not consciously, but a lot of my friendships of the mutual friends died away, and all of a sudden I was alone, and I was like, whoa, this is quite, you know, it felt quite strange. And then I went through a lonely period. Never thought woe is me, but I was just like, this is interesting, I've got to get used to my own company.
Right.
And then it was only then that I really started to get to know myself and find who I truly was. Because I think being in the Western world, they call it autistic, but I certainly relate to one of the phrases that they kind of place on autistic people, is that they have a habit of masking. So because, you know, interesting, we spoke about names. At school, I was called racist names. But I was speaking to a friend last night about dancing, and I stopped dancing at the age of 14 because it wasn't the alpha thing to do.
Okay.
But only because I didn't have enough self-confidence to kind of pass through that adversity. But then throughout life, I masked, and I pretended I was okay when I wasn't. I pretended to be this egotistical alpha male when I was perhaps the weakest man in the room at those periods. And I reflect on all the masks. Yeah, I'm a humorous guy, but I was a people pleaser in the past. And now, you know, I'm very mindful of my speech, but I will be honest, and I will speak, you know, speak your truth, even if it hurts. And sometimes it's better not to speak, and I have to take that as well. So learning to peel back the layers, remove all the masks, and it was like mask after mask after mask. And no doubt I'm continuing that journey, and I think I've been, in the last 5 years, I started fasting. And you know, it started with the intermittent, and I've been plant-based for many years, although I did dip back a couple of times. And I find you have to be honest with yourself. And when I went back to, I wouldn't call it carnivore, but I probably had a bit of meat and a bit of fish and a bit of eggs. But that's what my body was calling for. Some people are so disciplined, they're like, no, I'm not going to do it. And it may work for them. But sometimes when you're transitioning, you have to be kind to yourself. And I know that I have transitioned and moved in a very fast track manner. So I was quite graceful because I was aware that I was moving at a rapid rate anyway. And I said to my daughter the other day, when I reflect on my journey, how rapid it has been, but my intentions have been set. And what I said to my daughter, she was talking to me about something she was struggling with, and I replied that when you set the intention and you move towards it, I don't always use the word God, the universe, source, God, the powers that be, the universal forces. One day they will flick the switch for you, and then it is no longer a discipline. And I mean, for me, being able to fast has become like a walk in the park.
Yeah.
And it's like somebody's just flicked the switch. And I've touched 41 days 3 years ago. And when I broke, I went into a state of grieving for 2 weeks. I was grieving the fasted state. And I was like, why did I break it? Because I was physically very athletic and able to go about an extraordinary way of life, more than most normal people. And it was, yeah, I mean, we get used to, whether it's consumption for emotion or, I'm a firm believer that we have stages, and sometimes we have to build the vessel up to a level that is healthy. Mm-hmm. And it's been hard for me to niche in terms of presenting something to the world, because I've been a chef and I've had a cookbook, and that was cooked food, but I no longer would, although at stages it was healthy food, it would help people. That is no longer my passion. Right. And I want to be in the now, and how I present myself to the world is in the now. Mm-hmm. So I've struggled to niche, but I always knew from quite a long time ago that fasting, a pranic way of life, leading to breatharianism, was going to be my niche. Mm. And I'll share with you something funny. Mm-hmm. So in my apartment in London, where I was staying, I had a poster on the wall from a scientific book about the physical anatomy. Mm-hmm. And it had the human body, where you could see the muscles and the organs and the blood flow, and it explained everything about our physiology. Mm-hmm. And it had been up on the wall for 2 months. Then it started to fall down. And I replaced the stickers, and it restuck, and it carried on falling down. Mm. And I was like, I think there's a message in this. Mm. And the more, and I attribute my knowledge and practice of Qigong to this as well, the more I've been tuning into Brother Mark English, Esso, and learning about the energy body. Mm-hmm. And the day before I started this extended fast, what came to me was, you're looking at, it's a belief system, yes, but it's my old belief system. And what I'm stepping into is based on our energy body. So by maintaining, you're looking at this, where we draw nutrition from food and what it's doing, you're stepping into something else. So that no longer serves you, and that's why it kept falling down. So from the mentality of going into a 40, I thought I wanted to surpass 41 days. So I thought I'll go into 44 or something. And then it was like, no, this is not, I'm viewing it as a transition from so if you look at the dual system module, makeup, I'm using it as a transition from the physical to the energy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, brother. This is awesome. There are so many reminiscent and resonant messages just within what you've just told us, brother. Just what you've just expressed. I have to thank you. First of all, I just want to thank you for just being so forthcoming, being so open, and just allowing us into your world, into your space, into your mind, into your experiences that you have lived through, that you've gone through, that you've grown through, and that have shown through, because they're showing through right now as you've peeled back the masks. You're undoing all these layers, and you're just really opening up to this new version of yourself and just really coming into your own. This is awesome. Just to hear this, brother Agápē, that, oh man, first of all, just to unpack, your relationship is so resonant for me as well. I got married at a young age. It wasn't 17. You said you got married at 17. I was married at maybe, well, I was young. We met each other. We were high school sweethearts. So we met each other at 18. I was 18. She was 17. And then we stayed with each other for a decade.
Okay.
So towards the later part of that decade, we got married. And then 2 years after we got married, we divorced. So we were with each other for 10 years. And just like you said, brother, just like you said, it was like we had gone from, high school sweethearts to lovers to, proposed to, husband and wife, and then roommates. We became roommates. Okay. It was like toxic, and it was to the point of apathy, to the point of just, disregard, to the point where we didn't know how to separate. Like, we didn't know how to break it off. We didn't know how to talk to each other. We didn't know how to walk with each other. It wasn't like a team. It didn't feel like a team anymore. And it was heartbreaking because when we did separate, even though we had gotten to the point that was so toxic, it was, a point where we were literally physically breaking down because of the emotional
Mm.
turmoil. It felt like cutting off an arm to save the rest of your body,
Right.
like
Yeah.
you had to amputate a part of yourself because it's become necrotic, like it's become poisonous to the rest of your vessel.
Mm.
And you have to sacrifice this piece of you that has been with you, in order to save the rest of you, to have the best of you and not just the rest of you. So that was really, really tough. But leaving that relationship, separating, that led me to this spiritual journey that I'm on now. Everything else took place after. So this is amazing what you're talking about, Brother Agápē, when you leave home at 16. And I didn't even know what was the reason that you left home at 16. What was the reason?
So, like I said, I was brought up in a religious household. My parents were Christian, Jehovah's Witness,
Mm-hmm.
and at that age, I was very rebellious,
Okay.
and I had kind of like rejected that faith, and their stance was like almost like, if you live under our roof, this is what you must do. And then plus, I in essence got, for a better want of a phrase, kicked out of the religion, and the faith is, I guess I won't, there's nothing negative, but each individual family will hold their own stance. And once I left the house, then my parents, we didn't speak for up until a few years ago. There was various, small amounts of contact over the years, but the relationship went, and plus they didn't approve of my marital choice.
Okay.
Yeah, so but like, my father passed 3 years ago, and I would say in his passing, I am closer to him now than when he was alive. And I've since rebuilt a relationship with my mother, and yeah, there's a big shift.
Yeah.
There's a big shift. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for just bringing us down memory lane, and just, giving these thorough breakdowns of, how these transitions happened, and how your journey has unfolded, and it's continued to unfold. It's
Yeah.
continuing to blossom and bloom in its own unique way. And I love that you have gratitude, brother, even for the things that people, might definitely have a hard time living down, or living with. It seems like you're really grateful for, every step along the way that has made you who you are today. Because it seems like if anything was out of place, you wouldn't be on this particular journey if it hadn't been for the things that have already taken place. So when you talk about 25 years together, now I was only with, my ex-wife for 10 years. We were together for 10 years, and that was long. That was long enough in
Yeah.
that, in the toxic state that we were together. But 25 years, and then you said 6 children, and I think you said 8 grandchildren. Is that right? So, I mean, what are some of the lessons? Because I don't have any children of my own yet. I don't have any of my own, but I'd love to hear from you, because people say that there's just nothing like it. People say that you're missing out, if you don't have offspring, if you don't have children. Like, please let us
So
know.
I'll delve
Yes.
a bit deeper.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
I married a woman that was 12 years my senior, and she had 4 children. So at
Uh,
17, you couldn't make it up. You couldn't make it up. It was like not even jumping in a pool at the deep end. It was like diving into the ocean where there is no horizon. And then at 19, I had my first son, and then I guess 21, my first daughter, and then that made the 6. And when you're in it, I couldn't tell you how I did it. I couldn't tell you how I got through it or how I did it. And I wasn't always, you know, the most conscious of fathers or the best examples, but I always gave of my best in my current state of consciousness. And I've had many discussions with the children recently who are all big adults. You know, my sons are, I'm like 6'1". My sons all are like 6'4" and 6'5". But they all, I see them all as great teachers and angels, and there's a distance between two of them at the moment, but it's temporary. I've got one daughter she's currently traveling, and she says something to me that will always stick in my mind. And she's one of my stepdaughters. So she was 2 when I married her mother.
Okay.
And she said, "Dad, you was always meant to be my dad." Now, her father was around loosely. He passed away last year, but she said, she just kind of said, "It was you all along, because I was the present father." And in a way, our bond, I can't explain it. It's almost closer than a blood bond to accept and take, you know, something helpless, a baby, and choose to love and care for that entity, and for them to accept you through no blood relation. It has a unique frequency as well. And yeah, it's just it's an amazing journey, and they are great teachers, and I'm very happy to, you know, like I said, I wasn't always the best of fathers, and that was, I always did my best, but my level of consciousness. And then now we had this big thing with well, they more than I, although I had to work through it as well, the attachment. You know, we were very I lived with them all up until, or I lived with most of them up until 5 years ago. And then I was still maintained a very close physical contact. And then, yeah, 4 years ago, I started traveling and living abroad, Portugal, Cuba, Mexico. And I'd already made that kind of attachment shift and transitioned into like a mindful, detached state. And I got them to do some research on the subject, and they found it hard. But I said, look at, you get to come and stay with me in an amazing house where I'm living, wherever it is in the world. And the time that we then have, because it is in a higher frequency location than the density of London where they live, our time is going to be that much more special. And then plus they're now seeing, you know, even 10 years ago, I would laugh at people that would meditate, you know, not in a, just, it used to, yeah, almost in a, not a negative way, but it was so obscure to me. And then they look at me and they're like, well, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, can we come to a sound healing with you? Or, you know, what's this? You know, they see in jars of liquid on the side and saying, what's that? And I had to explain to them about looping. And they take an interest. And I can see they have their own journeys, but they're adopting, so that they're aligning with their father. But they had to grieve, and to a certain extent they're still grieving the old. And I've had some straight conversations, and I'm like, you're grieving somebody that was quite poisonous. And I would love you to see, you know, the lightness as to what I am becoming, and there is no need to grieve. It's a celebration, you know.
Wow. Wow. You know, it's just interesting, like just the level of maturity and growth and perspective, you know, to have that and to adopt that and to share that with loved ones, you know, that may not always have the understanding or understanding of that kind of perception, you know, in that kind of direction. Because even when you're saying, brother, even when you were saying that you had to explain about looping, you know, when they were seeing bottles and seeing containers with Shivambu, because that's something that, you know, I definitely don't even have a discussion with my own family about, you know, Shivambu. So how was that discussion and how did that go over? Because even, you know, to be fully frank with you, my family, they would rather see me not eating than looping. You know, looping is like, to them, that would be like totally, you know, totally no, like
Mm.
what are you doing? Like, we're disowning you, you know, than to have me not eat at all. They're more comfortable with me just not eating at all. So how did that conversation go?
Well, I think I've got to the stage where I've been in stages in life where I used to preach and project.
Mm,
Now I wait for the invitation.
yes.
And it was only because I was asked, you know, amongst others, I am, you know, as I grow into who I am becoming,
Hmm.
it is everything is authentic, everything is truth.
Yes.
I cannot lie. So it's transparency and honesty.
Hmm.
And there's times when I hold my tongue and there's certain things that are better left unsaid. But when asked, I'm like, yeah, this is what it is and this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And here's a little brief about what it is and the benefits, and not just my, you know, if you want to research and look for yourself, you can see many testimonies from, you know, ranging back thousands of years and used within many different teaching methods and religions, etc., etc. And, you know, I can't even describe the benefits. I've known about it for some time. And it's funny, somebody asked me about it recently
Hmm.
and he said, I'm going to go and do some research. I said, look, there's no point researching it, just try it.
Yeah, some people, it's like they need more, you know, they need to arm themselves more with more information. And you know, you can get into a lot of analysis paralysis, you can get into the constipation of more information before you take the leap, or take the sip, as it
Yes.
were. And you know, for me, it didn't take too much. It didn't take a whole lot for me to start. I started Shivambu, I started looping back in February of 2020. So
Okay.
it's been 4 years, almost 5 years now
Yeah.
that I've been working and practicing with Oran therapy. But just on a side note, I think in London, England, I think there's two brothers. Do you know Sam Cohen?
I haven't heard the name.
Okay, Sam Cohen, he has a book. I'll send you the PDF. It's
Okay.
it's it's phenomenal. But he wrote a book, a PDF way back, and it's on drinking the elixir through the nose. They were drinking it through the
I've
nose.
seen that done. Yeah.
Right. So him and another guy, I think Kali Ra, or somebody, one of his mentors, was teaching him about this. And you know, they have a whole YouTube video where they were in London, or where they were in the UK. They did a segment just on these two guys that were, you know, drinking their orange through the nose,
Yeah.
through a wine glass through the nose, you know. And he wrote this PDF that's just phenomenal. It talks about hatha yoga and, you know, Shivambu, everything. Just, it gives a whole layout and a whole list, and it's free. It's a PDF. I'll send it to you. But it's awesome, and just
Amazing.
that was one of the places that I learned about it first. But also, just, you know, to discover, like you said, to uncover and recover this knowledge and remember that these were practiced, you know, way back,
Yeah.
you know, ancient times. This is something that is a lot more closer to home than we realize. So, I mean, when did you say that you start?
So I'm only 4 weeks in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very new. Okay,
And
congrats. Congrats.
I had
Yeah.
and
4 weeks. Awesome.
I had
Awesome.
3 days off
Hmm.
just because I was traveling and transitioning countries,
Yeah.
and I grieved it, honestly.
Mm.
And I see any drop spilt as a waste. But yeah,
Yeah.
and one of my inspirations is Cristiano Elite.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
um, he's like, again, into like the pranic way of living. He's been one of my inspirations. And I actually saw, I think it was him and one other Mexican guy on a live, and the Mexican guy was drinking the Shivambu through his nose. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was, it you know, it was quite absurd at the time. It blew my mind, but it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a while to learn how, you know, to learn how to do it. Now it's effortless now, but in the beginning it was a struggle. It was like I had to break through a lot of congestion. There was things that I was breaking through, you know, the sinus cavities and just really opening that channel. But I think it's like a straight gateway to the pineal. It really opens up a lot. And when you drink in that way through the nose, it's like clearing out so many things, like a lot of debris, a lot of remnants, and it opens up, I think, a doorway that I started having vivid dreams, lucid dreams. Like it was really definitely opening up portals, you know, inside me to learn about myself even deeper, you know, on a deeper cellular level, but also a cellular level. I was having experiences during my dream life in the astral realm that I was not having when I wasn't looping, you know? So it was very expansive, you know, very eye-opening in more ways than one. So yeah, I recommend it. You know, people do their own research, but like you said, just try it for yourself,
Well,
you know?
you've given me the push to explore the next level, and thank you for sharing. And you know, I'm happy. I'm aware the more authentic and honest we
Mm,
are, that opens the space for our other brothers and sisters to be the same. And I think where I'm going,
mhm.
I will, where you don't see much of it publicized,
Right.
I think I'll be sharing the deeper things that are less spoken about. Definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. We need it, brother. Like we need your voice more just in general. I was watching a video with you where you were just talking about, you know, the flight over to you're in Miami now?
Yeah.
So you were talking about the flight and the stewardess or the flight attendants, you know, during that flight, because how many hours were you in the air?
I guess it was like 10 hours. Yeah.
10 hours. So during that 10-hour flight, you know, they keep coming back down the aisle and everyone's wondering like, who is this guy? Like why is he not eating? You know, who's this guy? Like, you sure you don't want anything? You sure you're good? You're all right? You're good? And you're like, yeah, I'm good. You know, I'm okay. And everyone, you said so many eyes were just wondering, why is this guy not eating? Like, what was it like to be in that environment?
Well, I didn't even consume any liquid at all as well.
Hmm.
But I wasn't, I was observing. I didn't say it to anybody, but I was thinking to myself, I'm not saying, why are you eating poison?
Right.
So just leave me alone. No. Do you know what I was
Hmm.
thinking? On the monitor for a big period of the
Hmm.
journey, it said the flight level was 33,000 feet.
Hmm.
And I just thought, I'm in like Christ consciousness frequency.
Hmm.
I'm cool. I'm good. Yeah.
33,000.
Yeah.
Uh, 33, 33 above. It's amazing. Just, you know, in that frequency and just in that stillness, in your silence, in the taking solace in your own solitude, even amongst the multitude, you know, being amongst others, but still being to yourself. It's like being in the world but not of the world. You're not above, but you're apart. It's like
Yeah.
you're just next to people who are operating differently. They're consuming differently. They're maneuvering and moving in different ways. It's just a different experience. And I feel like, people who have judgments or criticisms about the experience, just like you said, even if you're not going out of your way teaching, even if you're not going out of your way preaching or reaching, it seems like they reach to you maybe sometimes out of concern, maybe out of a lack of understanding, like what's
Yeah.
going on. Is he hurting himself? Is this intentional? Is there something wrong? Is he depressed? Does
Yeah.
he need rest? Like what's happening? So when you had that maybe familial intervention, or your family was asking you to discontinue the fast, and they were telling you, whatever they were telling you about, please stop this.
Oh,
How
right.
did that go? Yeah.
I'll just jump back to the flight. There's something I missed that I'd like to
Okay.
share. So not to be righteous as well, and like in all humility, we're all at where we are, and
Exactly.
that's fine. We're all at the right time. But 5 years ago, I was smoking in the aeroplane toilets,
Mm-hmm.
and drinking alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was a time of reflection as well. Like, wow, look at, you were worse than some of the people that were on here. So yeah, it's nice to observe and just remain grounded that, yeah, we're all on this journey, and whatever other people are doing, it's just a reflection of their level of consciousness, and not to look upon that in a negative manner. It's just where they are.
Exactly.
Um, as to the family, it was my mother and my sister. I have a twin sister,
Okay.
and yeah, they really went to town. Like, a couple of phone calls, a few messages each, and then asking other members of the family, let me know when you see him if you think he's okay. And I was just like, I had to be mindful of my response. But again, with my mother, I was quite straight, and I kind of flipped the script scientifically on her. And I did mention mother, I don't say anything about any of the poisons that you intake. She's quite knowledgeable, so she understood what I was saying. And I reminded her that although she wasn't present during this period or didn't see me, that I've completed, 41 days. And I just said, look, every time I see you, you comment on how well I look. And you saw me on a day 6 and a day 7, and you've seen me 15 days fasted, and you always say how well I look. And yes, I have had fasts where I've looked like I've been dying, because I know I've been shedding layers, and it's been that kind of journey. But I certainly feel that I am, on this one and many past ones, that I am thriving. And I like the analogy between belief and knowing. And I try to explain, Mum, I don't believe that I'm going to accomplish this. I know. And I said, your concern, although out of love, I feel, especially a mother's love, I feel like you're suffering. You're suffering as an effect of this. And I don't wish you to suffer. That I am so well, and I am in such a good place. I didn't say I don't need your support, but I would rather her encouragement and support than her worry. I do feel like in certain cases, worry is almost like a curse. It can act as a curse, especially if there's a number of people worrying about. So I feel quite strongly about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just tactfully kind of said my piece.
Yeah.
And I didn't even want to even tell her I was fasting, but I was at her house a few days prior and she was trying to offer me food.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had to tell her.
Yeah.
And then even since I've landed, she asked me yesterday, when are you going to break the fast? And I just said, Mum, yeah, I don't know.
You know, same, you know, it's same, you know, like some of my family, I was just around my family during Thanksgiving, and it was interesting because, you know, they were all eating, and, you know, I was just with them, just being with them, because I don't want to, you know, ostracize myself, you know, or you know, cast out myself or exile myself. I still engage with the conversations. I still have the relation, you know, and I still share in the vibration, even if I'm not, you know,
Yeah.
eating, you know. So I'm with them, I'm not eating, and they see I'm not depleting, even though I'm not eating, and I'm not needing. But one of them were asking me, you know, like, yeah, like, when's the last time? When's the last? When's the last? They were asking me, brother. They were asking me, and I saw like the look in her eyes, because she didn't really recall. Because I was like, yeah, you know, last year I was here for Thanksgiving. It was the same last year. You know, you didn't see me eat last year. It was the same last year. She was like, wait a minute. It was like she paused. You know, she took a beat, like a moment to think. Like, wait a minute. You know, they were, when's the last time, you know, you've had something? And I was like, it's been a little while, you know, like it's been a little bit. And when I told her that, she finally like started to register something that part of her did not, she didn't believe it was possible.
Of course, yeah.
But she's looking at me, I'm still alive, and all I do is there's 5 things that I do around the house. I was walking, I was reading, I was writing, I was doing qigong, and I was washing dishes. Right? Those are the things. And they always laugh because I wash dishes. I don't eat, but I wash all their dishes. Right? So those are the only things that they see me do. But now
Yeah.
they just see it as an anomaly. Like, they don't even care to understand. They're like, you know what?
Wow. Yeah.
Don't even
One day they will realize that, you know, whether it's your mother or other members of your family, that we have a superhuman son, brother, uncle, whatever it is. One day.
It's just an interesting dynamic. But, you know, I love that you shared that the way that you did, and, you know, that it wasn't on the defensive, you know, like, it was just understanding that it's out of love, it's out of concern. But yes, that worry frequency, because both of my parents had a whole intervention with me, and that negative wave of energy that phone call came with, when they were calling me about the way that I looked when I started, you know, when I did my first breatharian
Right.
retreat, first
Yeah.
pranic retreat. That was crazy. You know, I wasn't ready for that negative energy, even in the high frequency state that I
Yeah.
was feeling. When it came upon me, I was not
No.
ready. I was not ready. So that definitely, you know, shout out to you, testament to
No.
you for being able to go through that with your sister and your mother, you know, coming down on you and giving you those words,
Well,
you
I
know. And
almost,
mhm.
I wrote a message to my sister, but I didn't send it.
Yeah.
And it literally said, if you're going to have that worry mentality, perhaps it's better that I don't come, because
Mm.
where I am, I don't want to be around that kind of energy.
Yeah.
But I didn't send a
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
message.
yeah. You pulled the Abraham Lincoln. You
Yeah.
pulled the Abraham Lincoln. I heard he used to write people letters and never send them. Just never send the letter, you know? Just like, and then just crumple it and throw
But
it
I
away, you know?
was ready to book a flight to the jungle. I just thought, if it's not meant to be, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, brother, I'm so interested as well, because your journey is amazing. I mean, during these years of life that you've been living, and you're still young now, you're reverse aging. Like I saw
Mm.
in your post, you know, you're aging backwards now. So you're reversing the years, and it's like, when you're talking about these stories about you dying and being resurrected. I'd love to hear, because you said you've died twice and you've
So
been resurrected twice.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, once during, I mean, at the time, I associated it with like an awakening, almost like Kundalini rising.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through a period of the most severe toothache and backache, which I imagine is connected because of the nerve endings. It's all one. And I had a wisdom tooth which was growing into the bone. So it was already, like on the x-ray, the tooth is literally inside the bone. So instead of growing up, it had grown horizontally.
Whoa.
And various back issues. And so for 20 years, I haven't taken a pharmaceutical drug, but I started buying painkillers, and I was taking painkillers, but like candy.
Oh, okay.
And I inadvertently took an overdose. Yeah, and lost consciousness and was gone and had to be. I spent 7 days in hospital. On a drip, which, yeah, like mentally, I kind of felt, you know, I left my body, but yeah, it was whatever was in the drip. I also felt like it was like a full body flush as well.
Oh my gosh.
And I had a bit of trouble in the hospital because they were trying to give me food afterwards, and I accepted some of the food, but they came with like microwave meals, and I was reading the packaging, and I said, "Look, I'm here to heal, and you're poisoning me."
Yeah, the hospital cafeteria is crazy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know in London, but I know in America, definitely
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I kind of was quite honest about it. And, you know, I didn't go out and start shouting, but, you know, when they said, "Why aren't you eating?" I said, "Well, I refuse to eat poison."
Yeah.
And I said, furthermore, I feel offended, and it's really a deep realization that people are in these places to heal, and you're actually, anyway, I almost got arrested because of, I think they said I was threatening, almost like threatening the state. I don't know what. Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know.
That's crazy. So, brother, you know, could you just take us through when you're talking about, I mean, and first of all, I'm just grateful you're alive. Like, I'm thankful that you're still here, you know? Like, I just want to give gratitude for that, because 7 days in hospital, overdosing on painkillers. And was there a period of time that there was just, what was it even like in that state? Was it just blackness? Was it just nothing? Did you, when you say you left your body, like, what do you remember from that experience?
Yeah, like I've had similar experiences in plant medicine, but I left my body and I was watching down.
You were looking at yourself in third person?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then also levels, you know, looking down on me and leaving the hospital and looking down on the hospital.
Wow.
So yeah, it was, I mean, it's kind of minor compared to the other one where I was in the Mexican jungle. Without saying too much, I was injured in shorts and a t-shirt, lost for 10 days, no food or water. And that is when, I laid on the jungle floor and I was gone for like 3 days.
Gone.
Yeah. So I went into, perhaps in medical terms, maybe they call it a coma. But I felt like my body shut down, everything. Yeah. And I was in a void. in between space and time, again able to look down, and that was what I would call, that was only in June this year, and that's what I attribute to my rebirth, or like the final rebirth.
That just happened
in June 2024. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So okay, in June of this year, you're in the jungle.
Yeah.
You're injured. You're on the ground in the jungle, and for 3 days, you're in a comatose state. You're looking down on your body, and you said it was worse than the painkillers. You were literally gone.
Well, so not only was I, like, when I say injured, I had cuts all over my body, broken foot, and it was mosquito season. I wouldn't like to put a number on it, but I was probably bitten hundreds of thousands of times.
Jesus Christ.
But the research that I've done on that, so mosquitoes only bite and only extract toxic blood. So I saw that as like a blood purification in a way.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it was like, when that hit me, it was like, wow. I mean, I was unrecognizable following that expedition. And again, I faced many fears, swimming through crocodile-infested waters, face to face with jaguars, some holographic experiences, unable to walk, so I was climbing trees and crawling, and yeah.
Brother, I feel like we could have 10 more of these talks and just be scratching the surface, literally. Like, I feel like we could have 10 more of these and we'd still be just, just at the tip of the iceberg for what you're talking about here. So tens of thousands of mosquitoes in a whole blood purification. They say nature always provides.
Yeah.
Right? They say nature always provides. And when you're talking about that, like, just being purified, your blood is being extracted, the impure blood is being extracted, and it's being taken, and you said you were unrecognizable, but you're also in a void. You talked about a void. Was it like a purgatory void? Like, was your memory intact from that experience?
So it's I had like a life review. Where I saw, like, I had quite a high observation point of the intel of my life anyway, but it showed me a bit deeper, and messages for my future and my mission, so to speak. The direction, the path that I am to be taking, and that this was for a reason. It was almost like, I've been a criminal and been involved in, unspeakable things, and nothing notably terrible has happened to me. And the universe was saying to me, there's karmatic dues to be paid. It could have been done in another way. We're doing it to you in the kindest of ways.
Wow.
And when I say the kindest of ways, is it wasn't, I mean, to other people it was bad, but to me, when I was conscious, I just had to laugh. Like, I mean, I'm lost in the middle of the jungle. There's no way out. Nobody's coming to get me. Not woe is me. Nobody's coming to get me. I've got to get out of this. And some days I just laugh. But like, I started connecting with the birds. Like I said, I met jaguars face to face, which was like the first time I saw a jaguar, 1.5 meters away. And it was like, run. And then I was like, hold on a minute. They call you jaguar. And I was like, oh, mi amigo, permission. And in that moment, when I relinquished all fear, which was something that I had to do, like facing that fear, there was this like babies that aren't programmed, they're inquisitive with every animal.
Right.
There's no fear.
Right.
And the animal won't necessarily harm a baby,
Mm.
especially a wild animal. I don't believe they would.
Mm.
And when this jaguar, perhaps he sensed that I was injured as well, but it was like, I see you, I see your power. And she was like, and she had a cub, and she was like, I see you, I see your power, you know, respect and love.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, we almost became one. It was like, and then, yeah, and it was like, that was one of the most profound experiences of my life. Yeah, just.
Oh my gosh. You know, do you feel like that experience, like, do you feel like this is a place where, because people have so many ideologies, people have so many things that they take from religious context or even the spiritual context, but people have talked about coming back from the hereafter and being in that space of kind of purgatory, or being in that void, as you called it, where they're almost like, have you seen Interstellar?
Yeah, that's, my daughter says, Dad, that's me and you.
So during Interstellar, you know, Matthew McConaughey had that moment at the very end of the movie where he was in like the fifth dimension. He was in like a 5D
Yeah,
realm where he was experiencing layers of his existence, you know, in a realm that was outside of the realm of time and space. Like there
yeah,
was no time, there was no space, and he was able to witness different moments and different sections and different experiences in his life
mm.
where he was with his daughter, you know? And so when you say that you were able to, like, your life kind of played before you, is that what you're describing?
Yeah, and well, certainly in a dense jungle as well, there's very limited sunlight. So you're clouded by the trees and the density of the trees.
Okay.
And I would say, you know, whether it was day or night, everything kind of merged into one during this period for me. And it was almost like the fourth dimension. It was timeless.
Okay.
And then,
Timeless.
like I said, I had that the life review kind of situation again, similar to ayahuasca and plant medicine experiences where you can, not everybody can, but that enter that void. But so when I built up the strength, probably around day 7, I was making my way and I could hear cars. So I was looking for civilization, and every direction I went in, couldn't find a road, but I found a river. So I was on this river. Don't ask me why, but I swam upstream, and I'm not a strong swimmer.
Okay.
And I got to this island, and imagine, I mean, I wouldn't say I was just about to drown, but that kind of, anyway, I got to this island, and it's surrounded by bulrushes. And I've never experienced this type of bulrush in my life before. So I'm like, oh, great. So I grabbed them and started to pull myself up, and I'm naked. Just, I think I had shorts on. And these bulrushes were razor sharp. So I'm like, great, I'm seeking sanctuary, and this is like barbed wire. But I'm like, it's either back in the water or try and get through this hell.
Yeah.
So for about 10 meters, I crawled through these bulrushes, cut to shreds, and I got to a clearing, and then I went into a holographic state, and all there was like a holographic jaguar, and I would say a voice saying, "This is heaven," and everything was like almost like an Avatar movie set. The trees were more crystalline and colorful, and everything was more, it was an energy realm, as opposed to, it wasn't physical matter, although the real place may well have been physical matter. And the message I got was, this is heaven, here. Heaven is also a state of mind. You've got to go back.
It's time.
You've made it from, you've passed through,
Yes.
but you've got to go back. And I'm like, but I've got to go back through.
The bull rush.
So I had to go back, and then I got on the river, and I was like, and I had the guidance then. It was like, you need to go with the flow of the river.
Yeah.
So I always remember a scene from the Jungle Book, Mowgli. I think it's the bear. He lays on his back and he's just floating on the water.
Baloo.
Yeah, Baloo.
Yeah, the bear.
So I did that, and I just let the river take me.
The bare necessities.
Yeah.
The bare necessities, right?
Wow.
Forget about your worries and your strife.
Yeah, and I was singing, and yeah, and I saw like, I don't know whether they were uncontacted or uncontactable, but I saw like tribes on the side, kind of like observing, and I was like, okay. I stopped for a rest. I made a raft which disintegrated within like half an hour, so I just stuck to the floating, and I got to somewhere. I got to civilization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, brother Jesus. So, okay, first of all, brother, thank you for just illustrating this. Like, thank you for painting this picture for us, because this is amazing. Like, just the fact that you're here, the fact that you made it through all of this is astounding. You know, what you've already accomplished. I mean, it makes it seem like, you know, like you said, what you're doing right now, you said fasting is effortless now. It's effortless, like, it's effortless, right? So, brother Agápē, like, first of all, what did you tap into within you in order to get yourself out of that situation, out of the jungle, like during those 7 days? Because you said when you finally got the strength to swim upstream, it was, I mean, there was a period of time when you had no strength. So what did you tap into regain your strength during that time? And then also, what did it teach you about us as human beings? Like, what did it teach you about our resilience, our endurance, and just whatever it is inside us that keeps us going?
Well, I'm aware that my story is perhaps tame compared to what others have been through. You know, there's stories of people that have had to chop off their arm to survive, or their leg, or have had far worse injuries. And, you know, after the period where I came out of, let's say, the coma, I felt dead, like, and I couldn't move because of the stagnancy. So I had to start exercising. So I started to do, you know, whatever exercise I could do. And I found, you know, the trees in the jungle absolutely mind-blowing, but you've got hanging, like the location I was in, you couldn't even walk because of the mangrove type root systems. So to traverse, you kind of had to go under or over.
Okay.
So I wasn't doing pull-ups as such, but building upper body strength. And then, you know, at one point I climbed this tree, and I did this because I felt I needed to be at height to receive frequency. And being clouded from sunlight affects our GPS as well. So I was like, climb, and I've never climbed a tree so high in my life. And I don't know how I did it in an injured state, but I received power to do so. And it was an inner knowing, perhaps some of the jaguar spirit as well, saying you can climb anything.
Yeah.
I got to near enough the top of this tree, tied myself on with some vine, and sat there for hours, receiving the frequency and sunlight, just receiving.
Yeah.
And I knew, I mean, that height didn't really give me a full view of the canopy or way out, but it gave me some strength at that point.
Beautiful.
And then I continued to crawl and walk like a monkey, even until I could actually walk.
Yeah.
And so, you know, circulation had kind of reactivated, etc., etc.
But you went back more to like a primal way, like
Yeah.
just where a primitive way of movement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, brother. You know, I only have one more question because we got to do another one, man.
Yeah,
We
we'll
got
do
to
another one. Yeah.
we got to do another talk. This is
Yeah.
too amazing.
Well,
This is too
I want
amazing.
to make a movie. I mean, maybe not a movie, but certainly a documentary about the experience, because there is a lot more to it and a lot more happened prior.
Yeah.
Which is even probably more mind blowing.
Yeah.
But certainly, I'm happy. It's, you know, I feel that it can benefit the world to share.
It is. It is. You know, stories move the world. Like people, it definitely, like I just feel the emotion. I feel everything. I feel, like you said, the power that was instilled within you, because at that point, like you said, you were spent. Your energy was
Yeah.
spent. You were done. So it wasn't like adrenaline, you know?
No.
It wasn't like something that just kicked in, you know, because of adrenaline or because of, you know, stress or fear or any, something kicked in, you know, something came into you. I think something like went through you and
Yeah.
just allowed you to do what they would say is you shouldn't have been able to do, but you were able to do, you know?
I was praying,
Mhm.
and so nobody knew that I was. I mean, in my eyes, I wasn't missing, but nobody knew that I was missing until day 7.
Okay.
And you know, in my, all you can do is reflect. You know, there's nothing.
Right.
So you're just with nature, and you reflect on everything, and
Mm-hmm.
you feel so much more. And I could feel loved ones, but only after day 7, when they knew. I could feel their prayers, like to a name. I knew who was sending me. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. And so that kind of gave me the final push as well.
I'm getting chills, man. I'm getting goosebumps right now, brother. You could feel who was praying for you at that time.
Yeah.
Like you knew who it
Yeah.
was.
And I was saying, thank you, so and so. Thank you, so and so. Yeah.
That is amazing. Just the level of sensitivity, you know, that we really just don't realize the realm of just that power of prayer, that power of energy that when you send that, like people who do Reiki healing from a distance,
Yeah.
you know, and that the energy goes out, or when people pray, you know, multiple people pray over something and it happens, you know, or like a rain dance, you know, when a tribe is doing a rain dance and it rains, you know. So just the effect that we have on each other, on the environment, on this reality is amazing. And lastly, what has it given you when it comes to your relationship with time? Because coming from a space where there was no time, where time was kind of distorted and there was no time or space, it was just kind of in this, you know, this limitless place. How is your relationship to time today?
I'll answer that, but I'll just jump back and I feel it's quite a valuable point. Where I was, there was no GPS signals, no mobile phone signals.
Nothing.
So I was in a pure frequency as well. So there was no radio noise of any sort, which enabled that clarity on a deeper level. And that was, I took that from that experience, that it was a complete detox of adverse frequencies. And you know, so in terms of time, for, you know, I've lived at least a year without a mobile phone, and I live very, you know, from being you know, living within the constraints of time to like a T, I became very free to the point where people would get upset with me because I was always late or I wouldn't turn up. And that was period, and I thought, if I choose to enter space and time, I need to be on time and honor that.
Okay.
But I don't clock watch, you know, I don't wear a watch. I don't have a clock in my own space. And I just see time as something we can enter when we need to, or if there's perhaps business that needs to be done. But other than that, I don't observe it.
Yeah.
And just like with, you know, birthdays and dates, there's a power that certainly contributes towards reverse aging as well. And if you don't have an event, so a date, a time, and a venue, there is no time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, if I mean, I like to remain active, but if you do nothing, you know, if you was to sit in meditation all day, you don't lose any time. You don't. And I've lived that. You don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you say that again? I just say that one more time. Yeah.
What, just the last bit?
Yeah, like if you sit in meditation,
If you was to sit, whether it be for one day, and I've done, whether it's sit or lay for many days on many occasions as an experiment, because you're not observing time, because you're not going to a location, because there is no other party involved, there just is no time.
Yeah.
When you re-enter, it's the same time. Yeah.
That is profound.
Yeah.
That is profound wisdom. Like that is just, you're like, you haven't lost any time.
What have you lost? Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And it's just I love the paradox, because so many people will think like, you know, no, I can't meditate. You know, I'm not one of those people. And they think it's a waste of time. You know, they think it's unproductive to be sitting and doing nothing. Whereas you're saying the opposite. You're like, you're not losing anything, you know?
Well, I think it's, you know, so like if you look at people that work, they go to work, they lead their busy day, we'll call it just one day, they lead their busy day to do the job, to get paid, to be able to consume luxuries on the weekend and food. But if you just did nothing on that day, yeah, you just don't need anything, do you?
It makes it sound so, you know, nonsensical to remain in the cycle, you know, to remain in the constant loop of, you know, going to work to get the money, to have the food, to have the energy, to go back to work, to get the money, to have the energy, to have the food, you know, like that cycle that we remain in for years.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was heartbreak. I was back with my family, and my aunt, one of my aunts, she's in her 70s and she's still working in ICU, the intensive care unit. She's still working long hours, you know, drinking the coffee, like trying to provide. And she's in her 70s. She thought she was going to be retired like 5 years ago, you know?
Okay.
And she's still in that constant, you know, cycle, but she feels like, you know, she told me this. She said, I don't have a choice. She said, I don't have a choice. So when you're saying this, it's just amazing, like to have that realization. It sounds like for some people, we get to a point where we're so disconnected, where we have to go through intense trauma, you know, so much trauma and so much turmoil to like shake and wake us out of that reality and like change our mentality to see that there is no time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a job that I was probably giving 15, 16 hours a day to, and then still on call at night time, a responsible job. And it was killing me slowly. Yeah. And then I then left the job, which was a profound moment, and kind of started my own business, and it was a lot more relaxed. And then I was like, this is not what I want to do. And then there's this, how do I work how do I make work my play? You know, how do I play and attract an income? And yeah, there is that leap of faith. And it was like, you know, since I kind of downed everything, the universe has provided. I've been able to, I've only written one book, but I wrote a book.
Yeah.
And, you know, even I practice an aquatherapy, Janzu, Watsu, where you flow an individual through the water to release trauma.
Okay.
And just being in Miami, I met a random angel on a dog walk. My sister has a dog, and she was very inquisitive, and she was like, "Who are you? What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, this is what I do." And she was like, "Give me your number, give me your website. I know loads of people. I would love to work with you." And it just happens.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah. Definitely. I agree.
But we have to make the sacrifice and put ourselves in that. And that's, I don't like advertising, and that is the power of, you know, the right people will come at the right time.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
It all comes when it needs to in divine timing, you know, divine alignment, for sure.
Yeah.
So, wow, brother, you know, as we end this, like, I want to just thank you once again, just so much gratitude and love just for you, your testimony, and just this talk today. Like, I'm going to be watching this again and just really soaking in and absorbing all of it. And just, brother, I know you said you don't like to advertise, so forgive me. Just if I ask you, would you let people know where they can find your book, your website, any services or offerings that you do have for people that haven't met you before, or if this is their first time seeing you and they really do want to get connected with you, they enjoy your story, they resonate with you on those levels.
Yeah.
Where can people go to receive your offerings?
So I'm on AgápéOmniverse.com,
Okay.
which is my Instagram handle.com.
Okay.
And so just the book is only in hardback version at the moment, because so I've written it in reverse. It starts at the back, using reverse psychology, takes you back to your first ever breath, back to the womb, first ever breath. But getting it into ebook format has been a nightmare. And I've had to go to multiple suppliers. And so the ebook should be available very soon. But yeah, on my site is like a list of my offerings.
Okay. And you said AgápéOmniverse.com. AgápéOmniverse.com. Brother, blessings. Blessings, brother, for what you're doing, not only for yourself, but for everyone else. Like, this is a blessing. Thank you so much. This is awesome. You know,
brother, and to you, you know, what you're doing, and you know, I see your frequent guests, and you know, you're a leader, you're a king, you're shining, and you're shining, you're inspiring. I was waiting for you to finish it with another rime. The lyrical master, lyrical maverick in the house. But yeah,
I receive it. I receive that. Thank you. Thank you. We're on the journey together. You know, we're walking. Yes. We're walking together. Yeah. Yeah. So till the next time, man. You know, let's do this again. Let's do this again. And congrats on already. What day 13?
Yeah, day 13. Yeah.
13, man. Congrats. All power. All power. All power, brother. All right.
Okay. Love. Agápē.
Love. Take care. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Much love.
Yes, people. Love to you all as well.
Much love.